Hello, friends, colleagues, new listeners, and anyone else who is popping in for this episode of The Unlicensed Therapist. I'm your host, Matthew Grimm. I'm sorry it's been a little while since I was able to get this one posted, but if you can hear, I've got some congestion going on, that sinus allergy thing that's been going around the area hit me and has hit my home pretty hard, but I am back up and I'm moving and I'm going to get this one out because it's an important one, especially for our new therapist and even those therapists who have been in the field for such a long time, because today we're going to talk about walking the ethics tightrope. Now, I know what you're thinking. You sat through a semester-long ethics course. You have to do a yearly training in ethics. If you've been in the field for 20 plus years, you probably feel like you can quote things backwards and forwards, have the ACA or NASW Code of Ethics memorized. Students, you've analyzed every case study out there, but here's the reality. Ethics just isn't about avoiding a lawsuit or a board complaint. It's about providing the highest quality, the safest care for your clients. In the classroom, ethics feel like a multiple choice exam. In the clinical room, it's a living, breathing, snapping, messy thing. It's that split-second internal panic when a client asks to follow you on social media or when they ask you a deeply personal question just as the session is ending. Today, let's move past the theory. I'm going to give you 3 golden rules for navigating the gray areas. When you're out on that rope and the wind starts blowing, these rules will keep you balanced. Remember, your supervisor is your safety net. Use them every single time. Golden rule number 1. Maintain the sanctity of the boundary. The number one area where new therapists and even the seasoned ones get tripped up is dual relationships. It's such a nuanced and case by case issue, because if you think about it, it's going to be a lot different depending on where you live. The therapist who lives in a large metropolitan area, who can sort of have their own section of the city away from the majority, if not all of their clients, has a freedom that a therapist who lives in a small town where everyone knows everyone may struggle a little bit more and not have the same freedoms and may need to look at things just a little bit differently. But there are certain places where we can all draw the same line. One of those is that digital danger zone. And I know it's 2026, and for a lot of you, you're thinking that social media and online things, it's an old thing, it's been here forever, it's part of our lives. I'll give you that it's part of our lives. I'll give you that it's been here for a while, but it's not an old thing. I can still remember a time when getting online, those words didn't even exist, much less the idea of having a computer in your home or something called a laptop, or even someone like me doing what would be at that point, a radio program from my home. That's generally what a podcast is. Now we have the power to do that. We have that instant ability to connect with the world. So that means if I can instantly connect with the world, theoretically, my clients can connect with me. So picture it. It's Saturday night, you're out with friends. You're having a great time. And that notification pops up. It's a client who wants to follow your private social media account, be it Instagram, TikTok, X, or like the old fogey that I am, Facebook. The answer to that request is almost always no. Why? Because the moment a client sees your vacation photos, your political rants, or Sunday brunch, the therapeutic dynamic is permanently altered. You are no longer a blank slate or a neutral guide. They have an idea of who you are as a person, where you lean subconsciously, and start to compare how they lean in their thoughts with yours. Then there's the Google check. Oh, I know that I have been tempted. We've all been tempted. I can remember an old coworker who every time we had a potential new employee come in, he would do the Google check and the Facebook check to check up on them. And in truth, it was curiosity, and maybe that's why we're driven to do it, is just purely out of curiosity. Someone has said something, and we're curious about it, and we want more information, and haven't had that opportunity to gather it. But the truth is, the unsolicited searches are clinical contamination. If we find out something about a client online that they haven't told us, then we're now holding a secret. It bypasses the client's right to control their own narrative. If you must search for safety reasons, document it and talk to your supervisor first. And remember, safety reasons are imminent dangers to yourself or the community. So what's the solution to these digital disasters? Informed consent. The best way to stay on the rope is to set the railing before you start walking. Your informed consent shouldn't just be a legal document. It should be a conversation. You tell your clients up front that I don't accept friend requests, and it's not because I don't care, but because I want to protect this space as yours and yours alone. I want to ensure that confidentiality is maintained. I want to protect the other people who come into this space. Golden rule number 2. The litmus test for self-disclosure. Self-disclosure must be a window and not a mirror. And I'm going to be upfront and say I struggle with this still. New clinicians often struggle with how much of themselves to bring into the room. We want to be human. We want to be relatable. But the question isn't, should I disclose? The question should be, whose need is this disclosure serving? So let's use a 3-question filter before we even share that personal story about our anxiety, our family history, or anything that in the moment feels like it might relate to the current conversation. And if we answer yes to any of these questions, we keep it to ourselves. Number 1, am I disclosing to get my own needs met? Are you filling an uncomfortable silence? Do you want the client to like you? Are you seeking validation? Number 2, does this shift the focus away from the client? If the client shares a tragedy and you talk about your own for 5 minutes, you've just taken them, the listener, and you've become the speaker. Number 3, will this disclosure burden the client? If you share your current struggles, the client may start taking care of you, effectively ending the therapeutic work. So, where does ethical disclosure come in? Disclosure can be beautiful when it's brief and serves the client's goal. So, for example, I can see how much courage it took to say that. I want you to know I believe in your capacity to handle this. You've shared a piece of your belief system to validate them without making it about your history. Golden rule number 3. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. I cannot count the number of times I have preached this in all of my previous lives in the mental health world. I can't count how many times it's been preached to me. And I will say, I'll disclose right now, as much as it's been preached at me, has it come and bit me in the butt? Yes, even recently it came and bit me in the butt for not following what I was preaching for so long. So I can't say how important this is. And I know in grad school, they make documentation feel like a chore. And when you get into the real therapeutic world, especially in community mental health, there is so much documentation. It feels like you're doing more documentation than anything else. It is so vital. It's not only a primary legal defense, but it's a way of showing progress, degress, safety planning. It is so, so important. So there's the high stakes of mandatory reporting. This is where the tightrope gets very high and very narrow. When a client expresses imminent intent to harm themselves, someone else, or reports abuse of a child or elderly person, your duty to maintain confidentiality ends and your duty to warn begins. You need to stop the session, shift from processing to safety planning. Consult immediately. Never ever handle a mandatory report alone. Call your supervisor in. Take a short break if it's safe to do so. And have that conversation. Have the conversation with the individual. Explain to them why this is taking place. Call back to that informed consent where you had that conversation, letting them know when confidentiality may need to be broken. And then create the paper trail. When you write that note, use the exact quotes from the client. Don't write that the client seemed dangerous. Write, client stated, I plan to buy a firearm this afternoon at 4 p.m. Document the exact time you called the authorities or other outside agencies and the name or number of person you spoke to. Specific documentation doesn't just protect your license, It ensures the client gets the exact level of care they need when they leave your office. Doing this may upset people. It may make them say things like, I don't want to come back here again. But it keeps them alive. And that is our mandate, to keep people safe. While it may harm the relationship slightly, we've done our due diligence in the beginning, letting them know when it may happen. We're letting them know that it is happening, and we're being willing to work through it with them. Walking the ethics tightrope requires vigilance, but it does not require perfection. You are going to feel like there's a knot in your stomach sometimes. That knot is actually a good thing. It's your cue to slow down. It's your ethical compass. Listen to it. When you feel it, remember to prioritize the client. Set digital boundaries. Consult and document always. Next week, we're shifting gears as we come close to our season finale. Next week, we're synthesizing the chaos, where I bring every episode that we've had so far and tying everything together. And then after that, it's our season finale, where I sit down with a round table of therapists, from intern to someone who's been in the field for multiple years, and we talk about everything I brought up to you. How on point am I? What have I left out? What have I been totally off on? We're going to find out other people's opinion in 2 weeks. Until then, continue to seek out your clinical identity. Utilize that clinical licensure, administrative supervision. Set boundaries so that you're stable on that ethics tightrope, and weave all of them into a roadmap that will bring you forward. My call to you is to subscribe to The Unlicensed Therapist on Podbean or wherever you listen. Seek me out on Linktree, linkt.ee/MD where you can find links to The Unlicensed Therapist and my professional links. Share this episode with your cohort or a colleague who's currently navigating their first practicum. Would you be interested in coming on to The Unlicensed Therapist and talking about your specialty, what your identity as a therapist is, and sharing that with other people in a very understandable conversational format? If so, reach out to me. Remember, we're always unlicensed as long as we're willing to keep learning. I apologize again for the long wait, but we will talk again next week. Bye-bye.